I don't like calendars. I cannot stand them. I don't like deadlines. They bother me.
Welcome back to another episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Deemer, and today we've got a guest, Preston Lawson. He's the driving force behind Primetime Land Services. I have a hard time saying that normal because I want to be like prime time. It's the NFL fan in me. Preston, he left a very good job in the natural gas industry to just follow his passion in the land services. He started just in 2022, and with an SVL 97 and some determination, he's making a great successful run at this. So stay tuned. We're going to hear how his people skills and strategic planning have really helped him propel forward. Before we introduce Preston to the show and remind all of you, head over to skidsteernation.com. It's literally where American-made quality meets the needs of business owners and their skid steer attachments. So head over to skidsteernation.com for your next attachment need. And if you're a business owner and you want help defining your business, increasing the profits of your business, or scaling your business, head over to groundbreakinggrowth.com, schedule a one-on-one discovery call with myself, and we can put you on the right track to grow your business to new heights. Preston, man, thanks for joining us today. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, man. It's not every day that you get to, it's a tough, I'm sorry. I'm a little flustered right now. It's not every day that somebody leaves a very good job to go start their own passion from ground zero. I've done it. I know what it's like. It's a hard fall off a big cliff. But you did it. So that's pretty awesome.
It was challenging, and it all started out as I worked in the natural gas industry for a few years, and the money's great. It's a good thing to be in. It's hard to get out of because the money is so good and it's so reliable and it's always there and it's a paycheck. It's a very good paycheck. And even doing that, going back to a quote unquote civilian job of 9 to 5 average pay, it's hard to adjust your checkbook to that. Once you start seeing and wanting shiny stuff and you can afford it, you do it. You don't really want to change your lifestyle back down. Everybody else wants to change their lifestyle up.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, for me, it was more about investing all my time and energy, building somebody else's dream and just not having that purpose going to work. Cause you're like, what purpose do you have? Like internal purpose. I mean, not saying I'm going to go do good work, but like, what's the internal drive for you to go work in the natural gas industry? Like, it's just to get the check.
It's just the check. And you meet a lot of good people. I mean, I've had a few jobs over the years, and it's not really even about the job anymore. It's about the people you meet, those lifelong relationships. And I'm a firm believer. It's not what you know, it's who you know, 110%. Because who you know, even in business, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That person may not need your services, but they may know 10 people that need your services. And that comes in key every time.
Oh, absolutely. And growing that network, whether it be with customers or other business owners or local government professionals, it just opens so many doors and gives you so many opportunities, whether it's doing your land clearing dirt work or some other venture that you could walk into.
Exactly.
So yeah, you kind of credit your network growth, your network for your business growth, right?
I credit my network and I credit my wife. When I was in the natural gas industry, actually, they sent me home. I work pipeline, new construction pipeline inspection. And they sent me home for like 4 or 5 months at one point in time. And this actually started, my neighbor, his name's Tony Lewis. He's a director for Lone Star College Automotive here in town. And they're in their 50s, and I put a shop in, and they're like, well, we want to put a shop in. And they were out there trying to hand clear vines and chainsaw on trees and just, the typical homeowner breaking saws, getting irritated. And I told Tony, I was like, Tony, go rent the equipment. I'll clear it for you. I ain't going to charge you a dime. I'm going to clear it for you. I end up doing a good job on his place. And I grew up in this. My family's been this. So I'm not new to equipment. It wasn't just hey, I'm your next door neighbor. I'm going to learn this weekend on your place. I did a good job on his place. The neighbor behind him, he's basically the VP of Chevron Pipeline or Chevron Oil and Gas. He came and knocked on his door. Who did your land clearing? I want their number. And that's where it all started. And then at the end of that, 3 or 4 months, we made some decent money. And my wife's kind of like, you know what? I think this is your calling. Why don't you go back? Or why are you going back? Why don't you stay employed? Whatever you want to do. I just wish you do whatever makes you happy. And at the time, our goddaughter was coming to live with us, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back because I like that. It was that safety and security, that money every 2 weeks that paid the bills and kept the lights on. You didn't have to worry, And then the last July, we called it quits with the pipeline, just went for it. And I don't know if I was smart or not as intelligent at that time, because I started the end of July, right before winter hit. And in the winter months, it was a little rough first. We made it. I mean, I'm here. I'm still in business. But like I told my wife, I said, if we can start something during a pandemic, if it makes it now, when it's going back like it was, or if it gets back to that, there's no stopping it.
No, you're right. It's funny because that pandemic closed so many businesses, but it opened so many opportunities for service-based companies.
Exactly. And I started off on a day rate, and a lot of the guys in the area, they're $2,000, $2,500 a day or whatever they can get. And I started out at $1,500. To me, there was money. There was enough money there. I could get the job. And when I was renting equipment, I mean, a skid steer costs $400 a day. You figure $100 on fuel. If everything went right and you didn't break anything, tear anything up, blow a line, whatever, you were making $700-800 a day, which that's pretty good money. Considering somebody that's working, say, a $10 to $15 an hour job, working 10 hours, I mean, it's good money.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you still charge a day rate, or have you switched your price, your estimates? So
now, only thing I can say is I've been blessed. There's no other word to describe it. Even when I started, whenever I thought I was at the end of the tunnel, just either I don't have another job after this, something always landed in my lap. Something. We actually just picked up our biggest job. And if the year keeps going like it's going, we will be almost in the $1 million worth of revenue this year
with a 2-man crew.
And that 2-man crew was not a 2-man crew till about 2.5 months ago.
Wow.
We just picked up, I don't know if we can name drop on here or not, but Five Below. If anybody's familiar with those stores, they sell everything $5 and below. It's more of a kid's store.
Yeah.
They have a distribution center here in town. And we just picked up all their drainage dirt work on their new distribution center. It's already in place, but it was a failed product. So we're going back in, revamping hydroseed and permanent irrigation, all that good stuff. And now we're listening. If they do this, they got a $30 million expansion they want to do. He said, hey, I want you to put a bid on it too once we get this done.
That's fantastic,
it's growing.
Man.
But my bread and butter is the land clearing. I've always loved it. It's what I grew up in. To me, it's a stress reliever. What's better than going out there and getting on an excavator and snapping trees in half? What I found out is the residential was good, and that's how I started. And I said, I do residential drainage. We do residential dirt work, residential land clearing. We do residential and commercial, but we started getting off more in the commercial, and I figured out the commercial is what pays the bills. The residential is what keeps you going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a smart decision to do both, right? Like, because there's going to be a day that commercial work gets tight.
Well, especially like this year's election year. So election year, normally everything's tight. In commercial, they're either pulling the trigger February to August, then the work's being completed, and they're not getting because they don't get their budgets. I mean, they win their budgets in the year, and then they don't kick off till February, April, somewhere in there.
Yeah. So then you can do residential work, fill that in, or even go find some government contracts. But I think always having like your hands in a few of those pools is really smart until you get to a level that you can only do commercial work. I mean, like the civil engineers, the civil excavation companies aren't going to go fix a culvert in a guy's driveway. Like they're just.
But there's money involved in all that, and that's why I don't think a lot of people get that small stuff. And it's hard when you're renting versus owning your equipment, because when you own it, you can go spread those 2-3 loads of dirt for $300, $400, $500. You can go put in a culvert at a little bit over cost, help somebody out. And a lot of my customers, I read, for the most part, I read my customers pretty well, and I know which ones will refer me. I know the good ones. 97% of my customer base are awesome, laid back people. They understand. And I don't go in and tell them, hey, we're going to clear this 100 acres. And the minute we move out of here, it's going to look like a golf course, because it's not.
Right.
Let's get it cleared out, get some rain on it. Let these stump holes sink in. Let's see what the drainage is. If you go out there and clear 10 acres, your drainage plan changes. You take all the trees out, your drainage changes. Everything changes. And a lot of people, they'll go and try to sell them, hey, this is going to be the best thing ever when I'm done here. Give me my money. And then it comes out there and it looks like, somebody ran across it with a hammer. you're like, okay, well, here we go. And I've come in behind and fixed those. And there's some guys in town that do that kind of stuff. I'm not associated with them. And there's some other guys in town that they are great guys. We help each other out. We call each other, and some of them I'm not going to name drop on here, but someone call, hey, don't do work for this person. This is what happened to me. If you do, be careful. It's a tight network of the good ones, and we weed out the bad ones.
I'll tell you what, the guys that I talk to that are on a really good, strong growth trajectory, whether I ask them the question or just like you, just for giving the information on your own, they all have a network of other excavation companies they talk to on a regular basis. Like they're not out there. You're not on an island.
No, I sub some of my stuff out. And sometimes those guys, if you get in a bind, you can call them, hey, I'm in a bind. Everybody's had a job where they're short. Everybody, if they say they haven't, they're lying. Sometimes you get over your head, or the customer gets in and changes scope of work, and you don't want to back out of it, because everything nowadays, and it's sad and it irritates me to death, everything revolves to me, I feel like, off Google reviews or internet reviews. You can have, and we can get to this later, like I have one bad review, and I can explain that later, but I actually went on a job this past week, and normally I get down payment stuff. They brought that review up. When that review got brought up, my blood pressure went up. And said, you know what? I'm going to do it. No down payment, no nothing. You pay me at the end when you're satisfied. I said, you leave me a good review. But stuff like that, it hinders you. It's not just 90% of my stuff's word of mouth. Advertising is very little. Like, and I've seen in your videos before, you don't use your personal page. Don't put stuff on there you don't want. Keep it professional.
Yeah,
in a matter. And I have a business Facebook page. I have a personal Facebook page. I share my business page on my personal page. I don't what's going on in the Olympics or what's going on in politics. I don't put anything on my page. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
No, once you're a business owner, you need to look at social media as a tool for your business. Like again, if you want to treat it like you and your high school friends and put stupid memes and political posts, create a second account, put a fake name on it. Don't put your picture on it. Use it for your but don't have it associated to your face, because your face is the business.
Keep it in the DMs,
Yeah,
just
exactly.
You don't know who you're going to offend or what client, or even if it was harmless on your end, it could offend somebody else. And that's just the way the world is. And it's like, you can't even really, like, it's just like in when I worked natural gas stuff, you used to be able to haze people and have a good time, just joking around. You can't do that anymore. You have to be careful what you say. It's the world we live in.
Yeah.
Some things that are jokes to 99% of people, it's that 1% that'll say, hey, that's not funny to me.
Did you see, I don't know if you've seen this or not, and we're getting off topic, but I can't stop myself. They did a study on the Gen Z and job interviews.
Yeah.
17 or 19% of them ask if they can bring a parent with to the interview.
Oh, I saw one the other day, I think, and this is off topic too. It's like, hey, I think it was on TikTok. And he's talking to his therapist. He goes, I worked 12 hours this week. I can't work any more than that because of my anxiety and all this stuff. And the guy's like, 12 hours, that's a lot. A day? He goes, no, a week. He goes, man, get out of here.
Right.
But yeah. I mean, everybody's different. And I'm not making fun of people with anxiety or anything like that. But it's just, it's just the world we live in. There's a lot more, in my eyes, coddling to everybody on certain things, because everybody's afraid of, well, if I say this, what kind of reaction am I going to get out of this? If I do this. And it's the same thing in the dirt world. I mean, I got to go over here and do a job 10 times better. I mean, not that I only put 10% in anyways, but you got to make sure every T is crossed, every I is dotted, because it's going to be that review. It's going to be that one, because I could sit here and do this for another 20 years in one bad word of mouth. If the job just went south, that wasn't what the customer described, we went and cleared, and there's a 30-foot sinkhole in the middle of it. They didn't want to remedy the problem. They wanted me to pay for it. And I said, no, I'm backing out of this. I apologize. It's out of my scope of work. That one bad review is, they're just the biggest piece of crap ever. That affects you.
Yeah, it sure does. I mean, I remember, it's a very inappropriate joke, but my dad always used to say a joke based on that comment. Like, you could build 1,000 bridges, but you make one bad mistake, and now you're always the guy that made that mistake.
Yeah.
And it's crazy how that shit follows you around. Like, we are living in a society where you are guilty until proven innocent, and it's nuts.
Exactly. And it's sad, but I still go out. I try to do my best on everything, and every day's a learning experience. I look at everything as I need to learn from this, even if it's a mess up that costs me thousands of dollars. I don't get mad. I'm like, okay, now I know what not to do. And growing up, I was raised by my grandparents. So I was raised by the older crowd. So I kind of skipped I'm 36 years old. Technically, I'm a millennial. I don't like that label, but it is what it is. I was born in '88, but I was raised by the older crowd. I always listened to the older guys. Like, hey, I remember when I did this and XYZ happened to me, I would have done it different. And when people say history repeats itself, I believe that 110%. History does repeat itself. You wind yourself up in the same positions as other people, even in the dirt world, anything you do winds up. And I remember those guys. I'm like, okay, well, they did it this way and they didn't make it out good. It cost them a bunch of money. How about I do it the way they think they should have done it? And let's see how that goes. If it costs me a little bit of money, it's fine, but it's better than what they originally did.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love your mindset. I read that about you when I was reading like your bio that you sent in for this, but I think more business owners, because at the end of the day, your job, like literally your title is chief problem solver. Like you're putting out fires all day, whether it be in the office, on the phone, in the field, customers, it's always something. And for you to look at this and just have that mindset of like every challenge is an opportunity to learn and grow. I was like, I love that. I love it.
I mean, it's either going to kick you in the teeth. You have a problem, you get mad, throw your hat on the ground, and get your blood pressure up and do all this mess. Or, I mean, at the end of that, guess what? You still have the same problem. You still got the same money to spend, the same thing to fix. Just figure it out.
Yeah. I'll tell you what,
you lose on a job, you lose on a job, finish the job out. I don't ever walk away from a job. I don't care how bad it is. And if it's got to be done, it's got to be done. I mean, unless it's going to try to take my house or something, I'm not walking away from it, Yeah. I'm not going to put my family in a bind over some dirt work, but just do what you say you're going to do. Plan your work your plan. I mean, and if something comes up in the middle of it, regroup, move forward. There's nothing you can change about it.
Like, what do you mean by plan your work? Like, how detailed do you get for planning your projects or your week or your day?
So my wife, she refers to me as I fly by the seat of my pants. And I do too. I carry stress. Everybody carries stress. It's been how you carry it. I don't like calendars. I cannot stand them. I don't like deadlines. I can't. They bother me. And like commercial deadlines and stuff, they don't bother me at all. But it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna be here Monday. I'm gonna be here Tuesday. I gotta be here Wednesday. I gotta be here Thursday. And if I don't do that, I look at, like internally. If I'm not there Thursday, I'm disappointing that customer. I don't want to be the contractor's like, hey, I'm gonna be there Tuesday. Hey, I'm gonna be there next Tuesday. Hey, I'm gonna be there second Tuesday and next week. I don't want to operate like that. I tell them, hey, look, you put your deposit down, they put you in line. When I'm done with X, Y, Z, I'm to you. Well, how long? Possibly a week, 2.5 weeks. If I show up in 4 days, I'm a hero. If I show up in 2 weeks, I'm on time. You know? My wife's like, well, you don't have a calendar going. How do I know? I said, you don't need to know what I'm doing. I'll tell you I'm going to work. I'm just going to work,
Under promise and over deliver, right?
Yeah. Because I just feel like that's just like, oh, it says 8 o'clock. I got to be there at 7:45. And I've always been that way. And that's the biggest stressor I have on me as far as that goes. And like this last couple of weeks, the back of my neck's been hurting, just carrying that stress from getting this big job, finishing these small jobs. We got a week worth of rain. We got equipment on rent. It's just a standard business stuff. But being the owner, everything sits on your shoulders. Hey, my guys, like my wife, she's like, well, we got all these bills due. So well, we're paying the bills. The bills are fine. She's like, well, next month's this, and this, and she'll line me out. And I'm like, well, I got my operator over here. I got to make sure he's paid. He's got bills too. And then when I add that on, it's just a big stressor. Now we have a skid steer note and all this stuff. It's like, okay, what do we got to do? We got to keep it rolling. What's the best way to go? Okay, now the rain stopped. What job can we move into that's going to make the least amount of mess? It's going to be the most driest job we can get onto.
Yeah.
And that job we did this week, and like it was supposed to be 2.5 days. I pulled out of there this morning on day 4. We're done. It is what it is. It was just wet, pumping water, digging out 2-foot pine trees. I mean, it just had to finish raking it. I got home an hour and a half ago. It is what it is.
Yeah. Can't change it.
Not at all. It's just part of the business.
Yeah. And it's not the customer's fault that you estimated everything on 2.5 days. Like he just agreed to the price.
I estimated on 2.5 days on dry land, and it just happened. And I was like, okay, well, I can shove these guys in now because they're going to be the driest place to go. It takes me an extra day. It takes me an extra day. It's still money in the bank. It is what it is. I can't get on any other one. So what's an extra day?
Right. But, so I've just seen there's so many guys like, and I don't mean the good contractors, but the lower ones that are operating without license or insurance or weekend warriors and stuff. But like they go back to those customers like, hey man, this is taking longer than expected. It's going to be an extra $1,000. Like,
the only thing I tell my customers is like, hey, look, I do not do change orders unless it's an act of God. And I give them examples like if I come in here and there's 300 tires buried in these trees, I'm not paying to haul those tires off. If I come in here and we find a 30-foot sinkhole, that is not my responsibility. Other than that, we're good to go.
Yeah. I love that. Like, I feel customers, especially in the excavation industry, it's slightly unnerving because they're not used to the equipment. They're not used to doing that type of work, So they're looking for you to guide them. And I think when an owner of the company is like, hey, here's the exact process, here's exactly what you can expect, and it's crystal clear, I think they take a sigh of relief, like, oh, okay, I know exactly what I'm getting. I like this.
And I like to sell reality. I don't want to sell false hopes like the golf course comment I made earlier. There's some guys that'll go in there and like, hey, we're gonna clear your 5-10 acres out and it's gonna look perfect. Well, you know what? You can go in there and clear it out and you can do the dirt work on it and you can push all the roots down, get the roots out, and you can make it look good until that first rain hits. That first rain hits, they get all the roots sticking up, they got sinkholes going from all the stumps, and they're calling you like, hey man, what the heck? Like this looks horrible. And I tell my guys, I'm like, hey, or my clients, I'm like, hey, let's come here and clear it out. Let's rough it in. Let's get some weather on it. Let's see what it does. I mean, let's see where the water's going. It could be backflowing at this point. I mean, who knows? It's just is what it is. I said, then we'll come back and that'll be a second phase. Let's do it right. I said, we can either do it right and do it in a couple of phases. You spend your money one time, or you can come back and chase this thing for the next 10, 15, 20 years. The choice is yours. Whatever you want to do, I'm game for it. I'm just letting you know what happens.
Speaking of problems in the middle of the day, I obviously didn't have my headphones plugged in, so they just died on me.
Well, you get live action.
Live action. So always something, right, man? You gotta just roll with it.
I know one of your questions on there was, what was one of your biggest setbacks? And I'm not about bashing customers by any means, but there was the in reference to that Google review I was talking about. I had a client that was referred to me from another guy that was in the natural gas and oil industry. He started a mulching company. He's got a little excavator stuff, and he's about an hour and a half east of me. Great guy, does great work. We hit it off. I refer people over there because I don't want to travel an hour and a half, 2 hours to go do a day rate job when he's there, and he gives me people over here. He turned me on to this lady. I guess they went to high school or something together 20 years ago, and they were investors. So they had a house pad they wanted done over at one spot, and they wanted to build it on top of running sand. I said, I'm not building you a house on $1 million house pad. So I'm not building a $1 million house pad on top of running sand. And you dig it out the clay, build it back up. And then I asked her, I was like, what do you want a compaction test done? They're like, oh, no compaction test whatsoever. I was like, are you sure? You paused. I said, it's the right thing to do would be a compaction test. I said, but you have to do it. I can't hire my own company to come out and do it because that's just, to me, that's shady work. And ended up doing that pad for us right before Christmas. And I called her right when I was done with it. I said, hey, this is like $17,000 worth of dirt. I mean, it was a big pad. And I mean, just for reference, like our pad clay around here runs like 120 a load, roughly, depending on where you're getting it from with a Proctor on it.
Okay.
But I went and did that. Then they bought another piece of property. I told her, hey, I'm done. You need to have your concrete guy come tarp it. That way, if we get any weather or anything, it's good. Well, I ended up leaving it open for about 3 months or something. But in the meantime, I went and cleared 2.5 acres commercial. And they were buying property like, we have all this work. And around here, your commercial burned is around $8,000 an acre, 8 to 10, roughly, depending on where you're at. And if you want it hauled off, you need to hit it around $15,000 an acre. That's just the numbers on it for haul off and then in the area we're in. I know that varies for everybody. I went down there and did that 2.5 acres for $12,000 flat. But I made a mistake because she sent me a video of the property, and it was nothing but 10-inch pines, no underbrush. I'm like, man, I'm gonna get a 20,000-pound excavator in here and knock this thing out 2 days, burn it, and I'm home. Easy money. I pull up to the lot. It's 2.5-foot pine trees around, cedar trees, most cedar trees I've ever seen in the state of Texas in one spot. Underbrush you couldn't walk through. And I said, hey, what is this? She goes, oh, I must have walked through another lot, the lot up the street. I was like, okay. I said, you know what? I'm still going to be a man of my word. I bid it at 12. I'm going to do it at 12. I spent 5 days on it, left her a pile of stumps on a burn pile burning when I left out there. And I had nothing but praise. And then when I got out that, they went and pulled a Proctor for that pad. And it failed. They'd been open for 3.5 months. She goes, what are you going to do about it? I said, ma'am, I'm not doing anything about it. You refuse to have a compaction test done, and I don't know what to tell you. Like, you can hire me to come back out and redo the whole pad, but if you would have called for a compaction test at the beginning, we would have got it handled, and it would have been on point, and you should have been done. I was like, but you've waited 3.5 months to get concrete even, so I don't know what you're expecting. And I was kind of left at that. She goes, no, I'll get it handled. Well, she hired another guy to come out there with a dozer, redo the pad. And I had a burn pile out there. It's probably the size of 4 pickup trucks. When he redid that pad, he pushed a bunch of dirt into the pad, or he pushed a bunch of that dirt into that pile. And she called me. She goes, "Hey, can you come clear the left side of the driveway and burn that pile?" And I hadn't been out there, so I figured it was as I left it. I was like, "Yes, ma'am, I'll come out there." And I hit her at a $1,500 day rate because it was just a bunch of underbrush stuff on the left hand side. I was like, "I can be burning, do that. I'll be out there a day. Come back next morning, restack the pile, load up, and get out of there. Do her solid. We're fine." When I get out there, I see all the dirt pushed in the pile. I'm like, "Man, it's gonna take me half a day just to shake this pile loose, restack it, get it started burning." And it's like a quarter mile from the fire department, right on the main road. So every Karen that's driving by calls the fire department. "Oh my gosh, there's a fire!" And they'll come out there 3 or 4 times. This is what it is. And I call her and say, "Hey, look, I can either burn this pile today, or I can clear the left side of the driveway." She goes, "Well, go ahead and clear the left side of the driveway." And I told her what happened with the pile. She goes, "Go ahead and clear the left side of the driveway." I was like, "Yes, ma'am." All right. Well, I felt bad for her at that time. And the next day, I didn't have anything going on. And I called her about 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I was like, "Hey," I said, "Look, I know this pile wasn't your problem. It's really not my problem." I said, "But I'll do you a solid." I said, "I'll come back tomorrow and I'll burn that pile for $500 on pretense that she's giving me all this work." So up to this point, I didn't have a problem with it. And she had the house pad there. The house wasn't built yet. The sticks weren't up on it. So I was fine burning it. It was a decent sized pile. And probably 30 foot off the slab. And I was like, "Okay." She goes, "No, we'll wait." Well, I was building a horse arena in Willis, Texas, a little bit north of me. On a Saturday afternoon, she calls me. She's like, "Hey, you need to go burn that pile tomorrow for $500." And this was like 3 months later, 4 months later. I was like, "Well, was the house built?" She goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I'm not burning that pile next to your house. I mean, I have insurance, but I'm not trying to collect on it by any means." And she said some unkind words like, "I'm leaving you a bad Google review." Sent me a screenshot of Google pulled up and whatever. And I had a not so nice text messages typed up on my phone and sent to my wife. My wife's like, "You didn't send that, did you?" I was like, "No, I didn't send it." She goes, "I'll handle it." So my wife, she wrote her a book back, but that one bad Google review followed me to this one I just talked about that, hey, it got my blood pressure up. Like, hey, I'm not doing a down payment or anything on it. I'm going to come do it. You leave me a good review.
Yeah. Did you respond to her review on Google?
Yes. My wife did.
Yeah.
So she's a lot more poetic with words than I am. Besides, "Hey, listen here,
So I don't know about you. Shit's going to happen, man. Like I don't care how long you're in business, if it's a day or 20 years.
Bad review or bad day, like something bad's going to happen to you, right? And I'm a firm believer, and I tell guys when I'm doing business with other people and something breaks, or you go to the automotive center and they don't have the part and it's going to be 2 more days, how do they handle it? Right? To me, it's more important how they handle it than the problem itself.
So 100%.
Yeah. So for those Google reviews, when you read the bad reviews and you read the owner's response, like when they come back just as sharp and edgy and it becomes a "you're wrong, I'm right" from both sides, that's kind of like standoffish for me. I'm like, I don't want to get into an argument with that guy. Maybe I don't want him working on my property. When I see that empathy, I'm like, "Hey, I'm really sorry that you feel this way. These were what happened, and this is why it wasn't done that way. It's irresponsible to burn 30 feet next to a brand new construction home. I'm sorry that you're upset." Like that empathy makes me go, shit happens. He's handling it the right way. I don't care.
Exactly. And one thing I didn't know is my wife, she's like, "Well, just click on the reviews of the people." And so if they're reviewing, you can click on them and see their reviews. Like I said before, I'm technically challenged. So
yeah,
but they're all complaints. There are no praises, no thank yous. They're all, every single one of them are complaints. 15 reviews, every single one complaint. I was like, so that counts for something in my book, but
it does, it's like nobody remembers when you do it right, but nobody forgets when you do it wrong in their mind. Right. Like,
yeah, kind of like your bridge story. I heard one about a goat. So,
I wonder how many guys out there are like, what's the joke that goes with that? Like there's a bunch of guys going, "I know that joke." There's a bunch of guys going, "What is that joke?"
Yeah. No. So you can't say stuff like that publicly. You can't offend anybody.
My F meter is very low. Like, like people, like, and I don't want to be that way. Like, I'm not that type of person. Like, repeating a joke is one thing, but I don't feel that way about people.
I have a thin line, even with customer stuff. Like I've had customers, like I said, 90%, 97% of my customers are great. And that 3% make you just want to shut the doors. It's just like, you're like, "Why am I doing this? Why you're like, God, this is the whole worst day." But there's always tomorrow. And it's always going to get better. You're not on. And one thing I like about this business is I get bored easy. So I like the challenges. I like, hey, we're starting something new every week, every other day, every couple of weeks. It's something new. It's a new scenery, a new change, new problem. Just new. Not everything's a problem, but it's a new adventure every time.
Yeah, new puzzle. What's called a puzzle, right? Like you get
like when I work pipeline. These guys, I mean, you're putting pipe in the ground. Every job, that's your job. You're putting pipe in the ground. They come into a problem they've seen 100 times, and they look like a cow looking at a new gate. Like, oh, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to put the pipe in the ground.
Same damn thing we did last time, Hoss.
Yeah. You're just like, I don't know if it's a mental capacity for me. It's just like, figure it out, move forward. You're here. You'll sit here and stare at it, waste time, waste money, or are you going to get it done and move on?
People like easy. Whenever there's issues and a little bump in the road, they're like, who can I pass it off to?
So, and it's the same thing with the workers. Like the guys, they're like, hey, man, I want some of my best workers. And I may get some comments on here from it. I have some day laborers I've picked up because we have a day labor camp here in town. It's pretty Hispanic based. So you go in there and, hey, I need a painter. I need this. Who's good at this? They're $250 a day plus lunch. Some of my best workers have come from there.
Yeah.
I have a guy, his name is Goyo. I guess if you're transferred, they tell me it transfers to Gregory in English. So don't hold me that. It may be a bad word. I have no idea. They may be lying to me. But doesn't speak a lick of English besides yes, and he likes fried chicken for lunch. He loves fried chicken. And he's 63 years old, and he will outwork me 7 out of 7 days a week. Does not stop. But he's great. Does whatever you ask him to do. The only bad thing is I go pick him up in town because he doesn't have a driver's license, can't drive. Other than that, I'd put him on full time. I asked him if he had a driver's license, and he said no because I have an old Ford service truck here. I was like, if he wants to go full time with me, $200 a day, I'll give him a truck.
Yeah. Yeah. The good ones are always a little challenge, right? There's always a challenge. It's never a perfect world where they got all their shit together. They're a great laborer. You can put them in front of a customer. Like there's always one piece of the puzzle that you just got to grow and mature with them over time.
Or they think they're great, then they get on a piece of equipment and they tear everything, they hit everything but
that's my first red flag when someone says I'm the greatest or I can shit, nothing I can't do, and I'm like, I'm good.
Is learning. I mean, all that stuff. And I understand if somebody goes, hey, I want to learn. Get on there. It's seat time. That's how everybody learns. Nobody was a super operator from day one. Get on there, you whack a tree, do whatever you got to do, learn. Don't do it again, but just learn.
I've just seen too many companies bring in a guy like that because they're shortchanged. Like, you know how to run the excavator? Perfect. You're in. And then they bring that toxic attitude and it ruins the culture of the whole team. Workflow goes down the toilet because he's never wrong. It's never his fault. I know how I'm doing. The owner's stupid. I'm like, man, you gotta hire for desire and culture and then train the skills that you want them to have.
Well, it's even like, there'll probably be some shots fired at this one. I will not hire an operator that won't get out of that cab and clean his own tracks.
100%.
I will not ask you to do anything I can't do. And there's operators that are like that. Well, I'm not getting out of here, so I get paid for. No, you get paid. The lowest man on the totem pole and highest man on the totem pole have the same job. It's to get the job done, period, in my eyes.
Yeah.
We're all a team. We got to get down there and do a sewer sanitation. We got to get there and do a sewer sanitation. We're pushing dirt in an open cab. And it's like these new operators. And a lot of these jobs now are calling for iMachines. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But a lot of these new construction, they want iMachines only.
Yep.
But you can put anybody in an iMachine. Here, hit the button, hold the seat down.
That's they put that stuff in the dozers years ago, right? And I remember we would work with customers that had bulldozers, and they would all say, "We don't have a single bulldozer operator on our staff. All we have is drivers, because as soon as the electronics go down, they're clueless." Like,
see, and that's why I'd rather hire a 70-year-old, 60. I'm not picking on the older crowd, but that's the crowd that knows the blade hand, the old blade hand, old 12H blade hands. They ain't go in there and run them on levers and get you within a 16th.
You imagine taking somebody your age even and sticking them in an old school motor grader with, was there 12 or 18 levers?
Yeah. So they're like you're in Willy Wonka. You just keep doing this all day. Right. But them guys can run it, get a 16th. They ain't gonna have a blue top.
That was a skill. That was a skill back then.
And that's what I was raised with. So that's what I expect. Yeah. But what if that iMachine goes down? What are you going to sit there and you're going to wait on survey to come back with a different survey and change your survey? You're going to be down 3 or 4 days, or are you just going to pull out your laser and go shoot the stakes and get it done?
Right.
Go get it done. That's my deal. I want to be down 3 days. If you got everything on rent and you got diesel and you got employees, that's a lot of money for 3 days.
It is.
You can put a change order in, but you're not going to see that money for 90 days. So, I mean, I don't know. And I always like to surround myself with people. Like, I'm good at one thing, and I like to surround myself with people that are good at things that I'm not good at, because that makes the team in my eyes. And then you grow together, and you should be good in areas that they're not good at. I mean, they may know a little bit of what you know, but it's just you surround yourself with people that better you. Because I've always been by the motto: if you hang around 4 drug heads, you're going to be the fifth. If you hang around 5 millionaires, you're going to be the sixth.
Yeah, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yep.
They always say you don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. One guy said he wants to be the dumbest guy in the room, and I'm like, oh, I actually prefer to be the second to last, because I still want one guy I can teach something to. So it makes me feel good. But I want 4 guys above me that can teach me and pull me up.
Like, I always love going to the engineer meetings and stuff. Everybody's got their college rings on, and they come in the table, and their hands are all propped up on the table so everybody can see the rings. And like, I'm the smartest guy here.
Yeah.
You go over there, you're like, well, according to your ASBelts, this is not going to work. Just because it looks good on Google Maps doesn't mean it's going to work in the real world,
Right. And I wish they would change the way engineers were able to get a degree. Like, I think they should do an internship in the field that they want to be in. Like, if you want to be a civil engineer, then go work on a construction crew for 6 months.
Have the respect for it and understand what goes on and what works and that was our biggest deal, like the pipeline thing. I mean, it all engineered, and it even comes down to the mats. Like, they had one time we had a job, and they had mats, like they're the wooden. Everybody knows what mats are, I assume, but you can drive on them and they get you through muddy areas and all that stuff. Well, they had the mat section mapped out on the right-hand side, which was in a canal that was like 60 foot deep. I had to make a phone call. I'm like, hey, guys, are we going to burn up like 5,000 mats right here, or are we going to swap it to the left? And it was a big ordeal just to swap it to the left. I'm like, and these guys get paid way more than I do.
Right.
Like, how hard is it?
Yeah. I mean, we're in Peoria, Illinois, right? It's like, I always say half my friends work for Caterpillar.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff, like the guys that are in the office, they're the office folks, but the guys that are actually working in the facilities, every day is a head scratcher. How an engineer wants to build something new or prototype this. Or like, did you look at how all the components work together, or did you only look at the one little thing you're trying to do? Because this will not work in conjunction. He's like, it's a constant struggle.
Yeah. I mean, what works in the office doesn't work in the field, or we're going to, even like the eye machine stuff, some of it's so finicky, you can't use it in the rain.
Right.
As far as the connections and the receiver and everything goes. And like, okay, well, yeah, it's misting a little bit, but let's get the job done. Keeps the dust down.
That's like automotive engineers today. I'm like, yeah, you can fit all that in an engine compartment, but how the hell do you get a wrench in to loosen it? Because there's no room.
You bring it to us and we charge you $10,000 because you can't work on it anymore. And that's our gimmick.
Yeah. I think that's exactly what they do too.
Yeah.
It's exactly.
I think it's all engineered to that. Even the machines are getting out. I mean, before you go out there and wrench on a machine, now you got to have a computer.
Yeah.
And we used to run CAT stuff and even had it on rentals. And I had a couple guys that owned them, and we'd swap out work and vice versa. A lot of those machines, and I'm not talking Caterpillar just in general, but I think we're Mustang Cat, and I'll throw their name out there. But they're like, salesmen, oh yeah, man, bring it in. And we were having like joystick issue controls, electronic, and just a whole bunch of electronic issues. Yeah, man, bring it in. We'll get it right back to you. Well, smaller guys like us, that's $1,700 a month, depending on your credit or whatever. They're roughly $1,600 a month. We'll bring it down, we'll get it fixed. But then they hold on to it for 6 months. They don't want to give you a loaner. They don't want to do anything like that. So now you got a rental machine out for $3,000 a month plus your $1,600 note, and it's sitting down there being useless. Yeah. We actually ended up buying that new 97. And I'm a bigger guy. I like the cab room in the 97 better. The lifting power I feel is a little better in the 299. Overall, and Kubota, the service around here, there's plenty of dealers for service. My biggest thing was service.
It's
when we bought.
It should always be, especially for a small guy, it should always be number one. Like the quality of the manufacturers today is so tight, right? Like, unless you're going specific where that 299 HD for land clearing or the ASV, but like if you're just buying a skid steer and you need 74 horsepower and this much lift capacity and this much width, it should boil down to service at that point, because they're all going to break.
It's the same thing with trucks, like Dodge, Chevy, Ford. 10, 15 years ago, there was a war. Like, well, I drive a Dodge, I drive a Ford. It's better. And they were better. They each had it. Now all of them carry 100,000 mile warranty. All of them you got to pull the cabs on. All of them have fuel injection pump issues. Buy one, ride it till the warranty goes out. Do what you want to, as long as it pulls a trailer. I don't care.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I mean, I will say personally, from my personal experience, like I'm not a Ford guy, but when I started doing research on heavy duty trucks, I ended up buying an F-350 because I felt they perform better. You know, like the towing capacity was a little bit higher. Their whole business is built on those Super Duties. Like that's their bread and butter. And like there's just a small little things. I was like, that's the one I want to buy. And I'm not a Ford guy, but it's been a great truck. I love it.
I wasn't a Ford guy either, and I drove Duramax, the Chevrolet Duramaxes, and I went to Dodges because the Dodges pulled better. Last Dodge, I got a new one now, but it's it's not new, it's a 20 model. But my father-in-law, right before COVID, he's like, man, let's go to the Ford house. I'm not buying a Ford. It ain't happening. I went down there and ended up buying one. I drove that thing for 2 years, pipeline, and put 90,000 miles on it. Had to replace a wheel hub. That was it. Leveled it out on 37s. Drove like a dream. I was like, I'm going to trade it in. I went to the Ford house right when COVID started. I was like, hey, I want that same truck at King Ranch. They're like 97,000. I was like, I was like 76,000. They're like, nope, not doing it. So, okay. So I went across to the Dodge house. They honored my trade in on my 18 model Ford F-250. I said, give me that black 3/4 ton right there. Like, you want to test drive? I was like, nope, they all ride like log wagons. Just sign me up. I'll be back in the morning.
If you ain't got 1,000 pounds in the bed, it's going to ride. I know exactly what it's going to ride like.
Yeah. And that Dodge 3/4 tons on the Dodge, the only thing I don't like about them is they went to the coil spring rear ends and pulling a trailer. They don't pull like a leaf spring. They just don't. But with no trailer on it, man, that truck's a Cadillac. Even on 37, it's just a Cadillac. Ride smooth, no bump.
I've thought about buying that deck system for the back of the truck just so I could put weight in the drawers and then still have the top for a bed. Because I don't haul a trailer as much as I used to. And like we go out to dinner anywhere and Tracy's like, we're not taking your truck. She's like, your truck's miserable. Like
my wife's got a little WX3. We ride it around a lot. She's like, yeah, I don't ride the truck.
She hates riding in it.
Or she'll get in there like, it's dusty here. I'm like, it's a work truck, Like, come on.
Yeah. But I mean, it'll bounce you.
Yeah.
Any work truck's gonna like this because it's built for the load, not for the comfort. So.
And mine stays hooked up to a trailer. When like I started my company, I did everything backwards. I've seen so many guys go in and not have a shop, not have the trailers. They just go in like, hey man, I'm gonna buy this equipment brand new because I got good credit and they got 0%, which is fine because they're like, oh, my note's only $1,600. But they don't realize they're getting in and then they're paying for hauling fees. They get in there, they're not counting for maintenance, they're not counting for breakdowns, they're not counting for any of that stuff. There's a couple guys around me that started off and I thought they were doing good. They had a brand new GMC flatbed dually, brand new Texas Pride dump trailer, 2 mulchers, buying equipment. I'm like, man, so they're doing pretty good. And next thing you know, no longer in business, everything returned. And I was like, okay, well, we're not doing that.
No.
So I built a 30 by 40 shop at my house. I got the trailers. I have an old Ford service truck I bought. I was actually doing a land clearance job on it and it was there. I was like, hey, y'all want to do some horse trade? And they're like, well, it's the old owner's son, da-da-da-da-da. And I said, well, and it had brand new tires all the way around. It's got 200,000 miles on it, 5-speed, no air, factory from Missouri, service bed on it with a room for a welder. And the guy called me, goes, well, how much you want to give me for it? I said, man, I know it's got brand new tires on it. I said, if I can afford it, you shoot me a price. If I can afford it, I can afford it. If I can, I can. He goes, man, how's $500 sound? And I was like, I'll be there tomorrow. Runs and drives. No air, and I'm in Texas, which is crappy, but other than that, for $500, open the split windows and that's your air conditioning, go for it. But you can throw the saws on it, throw some tools on it and drive to the job site. If you park it there, you got a tool truck there,
Mm-hmm.
But I did everything backwards. Like we just got that skid, and it's actually my uncle. He come to work for me because he's been watching me grow. And he's like, and I was actually at that point, I was down at the time, like, do I need to go back to corporate? Because I was getting irritated because I was by myself. I was getting a lot of work, and it just, the day in, day out of it was just mentally wearing on me.
It'll wear you out.
And I wasn't full time. When I hire somebody, I want to be full time because we have slow season. Like our slow season here is like right after Thanksgiving, not necessarily due to weather, but just timing. But Thanksgiving to the end of January, because you have Christmas, everybody's buying stuff for their kids, and you got vacations, and you got this, and normally the weather's iffy at that point in time. But when I bring somebody on, I want to pay them 12 months out of the year, regardless. I'll just put them on salary. Like, take care of your family, take care of your, I want to build loyalty. When I hire people, I want loyalty. I want good work and I want loyalty. I don't want to sit there and pay you all this money and then you go shop somewhere else.
Yeah.
If I'm good to you, you be good to me. Through the thick, through the thin, it doesn't matter. And that's just the way I like to operate. But like I said, I had the shop, I got the trailer. My first trailer was a top hat. I still have it. It's hooked to my truck right now. I call it my little redneck trailer because DOT does not look at you in it. It's got 8,000 pound axles. They're marked as 7s. It's got the pipe rail sides on it, 24-foot long with ramps. Throws a skid on there, throw a 13,000-pound excavator on there, go down the road. They don't look at you. Love it. That was my first trailer, as far as doing this business. And I pull 3/4-ton truck just because here in state of Texas, anything over 26,000 CDL.
Right.
I don't know about it. I'm search all the laws, man. You can pull up 26,000 unless you have a ag exempt form. Then you pull up to 30, and you put farm tags on your trailer, which some guys do that around here. And I get it because that 4,000 pounds really helps you out when you're buying a trailer.
It does. That's a huge difference. Like, because you're at that top of the line, like top end. So 4,000 pounds is drastic.
Because technically around here, we can get tax exemption for being a logger. You don't have to sell logs to a log company or a mill one time a year.
One time a year.
So it's kind of a loophole. And it helps you when you're buying equipment because then you don't pay taxes on it. So,
yeah. Well, that damn CDL shit now is no joke, man. That cost of getting a CDL and the time you have to take away from work for the class. I mean,
see, I think it should be broke down. I mean, my opinion on that, like if you're like a small guy, like we're doing kind of thing, like there should be like an in-state CDL and there should be a drastically lower cost. Just if they want you to run legal, we'll make it affordable to run legal. Why do we want to go pay $6,000, take a month out of our
service business CDL? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like I'm not running out of my state. If I do, I'll have it heavy hauled or do whatever I got to do. I'm staying within. I mean, 90% of my work is in my county.
Right.
Or have it by county or have it by mileage. I mean, it's just like you run farm tags here. You got to be within 50 to 100 miles of your leased dwelling. But the way around that is, hey, man, I got properties leased from Galveston all the way to the Panhandle. Right. I'm headed to the leased property. And that's how I got to skate around it. I mean, it is what it is. But everything's getting so tight now. It's where you got to start looking at those loopholes. You got to start making the smart financial decisions. You got to look for that stuff to save yourself money. And there's some guys that don't care. There's some guys that got plenty of money. I mean, I'm like my wife. She's very much spend it today. We can make more tomorrow. Let's enjoy life. And I'm like, I like to see it in my banking account. I don't care if I die tomorrow. That to me, I like safety and security as far as financial goes.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And I'll tell you what, Preston, just from my own personal experiences with my relationship, like pick a number that makes you feel safe and secure and then change your mind after you hit that number. Like let your wife have
that's my problem is me and my uncle, we were actually talking about this morning. And I was like, you know what? I was like, this is our best year. And being in their second year in business, I mean, we're doing great. I feel like we're doing great. I feel like we're growing our relationships. Our networking is great. And to me, it's all about networking. Like I said before, I'll preach 1,000 times. It's not what you know, it's who you know, and it's your network. But I told him, if I make $2 million, I said, that'll be a benchmark. I'm like, okay, $2 million is good. Now we got to do better. And I've always had that. I've always had that mentality of never being satisfied. And it's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
It is. And I was you 10 years ago. And I would say losing my parents a year and a half, 2 years ago, and going through that and becoming older, like I'm closer to 50 than 40 now. I'm just like, I'm okay if I don't hit this goal anymore. Like the one that's real big, hairy, audacious. Like I still want to have goals and I still want to grow, but like the level of my growth now is more like, how much does that affect my day-to-day life? Like how much do I have to sacrifice in all other areas of my life to hit these financial goals of my business? And now, like before I was like all business, like I don't care, I'm doing it. And now I'm like, yeah, I'm not willing to sacrifice this part of my life to get that. And I think it's just an age thing. I was talking to a friend of mine who's getting ready to retire, and he's like, it's totally an age thing.
My deal now, the way society is and inflation and everything, like I can go in a store. I forgot what store it was. And I'm a pretty cold-hearted person, not like mean or anything. I'm just cold-hearted. Just it is what it is, And I walked in the store and kind of took my heartstrings. Like there's this guy in there. He had to be 80. He was working. Why is a senior citizen in our community or anybody's community working at 80? And he didn't look like he made bad life choice or anything. He just looked like a nice 80-year-old man. Why is he working? I don't want to be working when I'm that old, and that's my personal choice. But like I feel like everything's gone up so much, and our society has failed our seniors as far as that goes because they should be retiring. I mean, if he's 80, he's been working for 60, 65 years probably, if not more.
I'll tell you what, though, Preston, maybe he wants to work, and that was just a job he could physically handle because sitting around the house, he felt like he was just dying. Like, I'm scared to death to retire.
Maybe he's still married. Maybe he wanted the job. Who knows?
Maybe he needs to get the hell out of the house for 6 hours a day, and he doesn't like golf.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm gonna be a great golfer when I'm in my 60s.
I just always wanted more in life. And when I was growing up, I was told, well, you're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. And I'm like, okay, well, it's not. We're just going to show you. How about that?
Yeah.
You can talk all you want. We're going to show you that it's going to be successful. My wife's she's like, hustler mentality. I was like, I just want to be successful. I said, that's all I want. She goes, well, what is success for you? I said, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't answer that question.
I do recommend spending a little bit of time and figuring out what success looks like to you, because otherwise you're always going to be chasing and then you're never satisfied. And then it's hamster.
And I'm not stupid to the fact that I know I'm in a position now. I mean, I don't know if you've seen those TikToks. It's like the 20, like the older version of you, like, hey, did we make it? And they're like, yeah, man, we, but it's kind of like, I know right now I'm living a dream that somebody else is dreaming right now. I'm in a position that they wish they could be in. And I wish I was in this position 10 years ago. This is where I wanted to be, and I'm there. Yeah. But now I'm here. Okay. And my wife's like, well, you're always trying to keep up with the Joneses. You're always chasing. You're always doing. I said, because that's what I've always done. It's what I've always known. I've always wanted more. I get to a point like, okay, that goal's achieved. Let's go. What's the next goal? We did $1 million this year. You know what? Let's shoot for 3 next year. Let's shoot for 5 the following year. And it's not about the money. It's just about it's about the chase.
100%, man. You gotta fall in love with the process, and you have to fall in love with the chase, like, because
it's addicting. It's addicting at the same time.
The goalpost always moves, right? Like, and if you miss 3 million next year, you hit 2.6.
I'm not going to quit.
What if you would have just? But what if your goal would have been 1.5 million? You would have worked at a rate to hit 1.5 million.
Yeah. Exactly. And I don't think a lot of people think like that either. A lot of people are like, oh, whatever it does, whatever the bills are due. And in this industry, if the sun's shining, you need to be out there working, because you don't know. I mean, next month could be 30 days of rain.
Yeah, I think goals sets the mindset for any business owner, and the ones that set achievable goals, like that's why they get stuck at those plateaus, because they're not making it uncomfortable. Like everyone I talk to and we work with in the program, I'm like, what's your sales goal? And they're like, great. And I add 20 to 30% to it. And they're like, whoa, that's a lot. And I'm like, who cares? If you miss it, it's like, you don't go to prison, but let's shoot for something that makes you uncomfortable, because even if you miss it and you're 15% above your goal, how much better off would you be? He's like, a lot. I'm like, well, if you're only aiming it here, it's going to be pure luck if you go above it, because you're going to work at the rate you need to work to hit that number.
100%. See, I don't even set, like, for myself and my business, I don't even set hard goals. Like, go out there, be the best we can be. And I was talking to another local guy here, and I've kind of helped him out a little bit. And he does mowing and stuff. You see, we've met a couple times. He's just, I don't know, if you ever just met somebody and you're like, you know what, this is a good guy. Yeah. He's trying. I want to help him. I just want to help him. I don't know why. I just feel compelled to help him. I've sent him jobs and stuff and everything. He was calling me yesterday. He goes, man, this contract I got with the city over here, it's a little bit east of us. He goes, man, I hired $1,300. I got it bid out for X amount. I'm not making any money. And I said, we'll call him Tom, just for conversation. I was like, hey, Tom, look, man, if you hire those guys and you got X amount of dollars, said, what would it cost you to use 3 less guys and do 1 more day extra? He's like, well, I didn't think about it like that. I was like, you're making more money. I said, but you need to build it. I said, in your industry. I said, right now, I'm starting to get to where I can drop my guys off or get them lined out. I ain't got to follow them around. And I can go get in the truck and go get other jobs. I'm still making the money. I'm keeping the money rolling. I said, that's where you need to be at. I'm not saying don't quit working. Don't go out there and get on that lawnmower. Don't stop. But if you have the opportunity, hey, look, this is covered. I trust these guys. You can leave 4 or 5 hours, go get another 4 or 5 grand worth of work, come back, get back on your mower, do it.
Yeah.
Don't think you have to be on the machine. You have to be there all the time when you got the guys. You supervising makes you zero money.
If you need to supervise or be on the machine, you should have stayed at your job, because all you're doing is working for an hourly rate.
Or you shouldn't have hired those guys. You should have stayed on yourself and worried about their jobs when they come.
Yeah.
In this same guy just got a contract, had me bid on a contract that's almost $500,000 for mowing commercially for that city, because the state's rejecting it. They're not going to mow anymore. They want me to come in. And I told him, hey, out of this contract, I mean, it's 7 months. I mean, I'll even throw the numbers out there. It's $45,000 a month for 7 months.
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, hey, and this would be life changing for him. I was like, look, I don't want to do this, but you're a great guy. I want to help you out. I was like, If they bite the bid at $44,950, I said, I will give you $14,950 a month to pick up the trash and weed eat. And I think it's total like 12 miles. I was like, the rest of the money, I'm going to dump in, buy some new tractors, have them paid off. Then I'll have those tractors for my business. And I said, I may even pay you to run the tractors and just do the mowing. But for him, $15,000. And that's where I set myself back. To me, $15,000 a month is not a whole lot of money in today's society with machine, fuel.
Well, for $15,000 in revenue, it's not a lot of money.
It's not a lot of money. But to him, that's life changing. He has one truck.
His overhead is minimal.
Yeah. But that's life changing for him.
Yeah.
And if that sets him on a better path, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
And I've always had people help me. Like my uncle, even before he quit doing what he was doing to come work for me, I would call him. And I would know the answer, but it's kind of like I needed that reassurance. Like, hey, I got this job going over here. This is what I ran into. What do you think? And he got to the point, he goes, why are you wasting my time calling me? And I was like, man, why you gotta be rude about it? Like, what are you talking about? Like, am I stupid? He goes, no, you know the answer. You're doing great. Quit calling me. So I quit calling him. And he'd come help me on the weekends and stuff. I had a bigger job or whatever. He'd come out there and piddle, and I give him money, and he, it grew into it.
But like that's a perfect example of like all the owners out there that have like either part-time or full-time help, and those guys don't make a decision without running it past the boss. Yeah. And then like you get frustrated with them, or like they get. It's because you kept answering all the questions, and just like you with your uncle, like, oh, I'm just gonna call and check with him before I do this, and he's just like, quit, like,
Well, he's been doing it like 30 years. You know what I mean? Right. So to me, if he said, yeah, it's good, or hey, I would think about maybe swapping this out, or using this grade rock, or maybe changing your elevations a little bit because this and this, and I listen to that, I absorb that.
Yeah. I think talking to him about the jobs and this and that and your experience is still great, but he doesn't want you to call. Because you don't need his stamp of approval is what he's saying. Like, what you're doing, right?
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
The thing we got to do with the employees too. Just be like, what's the problem? What's your suggestion? How will it work? Great, do it. Like, we got to quit feeding.
And be open ideas, because everybody's ideas are different. Like, just because you think your idea is the best doesn't mean it's the best idea in the room. And somebody else can do it. You're like, well, I didn't think about that. That'd save me about $5,000. So let's just go with that plan.
Right.
Get the same end result. Doesn't matter how it's done. As long as you get the same end result you need, and it doesn't cost you a fortune. Fine,
No, absolutely.
Because we're all in business to make money. To me, it all boils down to money.
And nobody wants to be micromanaged. Nobody.
No, nobody does. And I don't want to run that way. And some people though, they're so used to it, that's how they run, or they're scared. They're scared to make their own decision. They're scared to screw up. Don't be afraid to screw up. Don't just learn from it. If you take a dozer out there and you sink it in a wet area, which used to be my biggest fear, and my uncle used to send me memes and stuff all the time, like an excavator stuck up to the cab. And I was like, man, don't send me that stuff, He goes, I can tell you how you know when you make it. I go, how's that? He goes, wherever you sink an excavator and you have enough money in the bank, all you can do is laugh. And I was like, makes sense. Because I'm like, you're starting out, you're like, man, I'm going to sink a $200,000 excavator. Oh my God, am I going to get it out the record bill? I'm going to be eating ramen noodles for the next 6 months.
Yeah, when you can just go, shit happens. Like you're doing all right.
Yeah. And then I started coming around to it. And I used to be real scared, especially because I was always used to renting equipment. So I played scared with the weather. And now that we're starting to own equipment and like this is the first year I kept excavator on lease for months. Before it was like a week at a time, 3 or 4 days at a time. And that was one of my goals. Like we're talking about goals. One of my goals, like, you know what? I know I'm doing better when I keep excavator on rent for a month, 2 months, 3 months. You got the business, you got to go, and even if it sits there 5 days, let it sit there. Like you want to have it set on the job for 5 days because it rains.
I don't want the inconvenience of dropping it off and picking it up.
Yep. Or even wasting the money for a week.
Yeah.
Because you rent 3 weeks, get a 4th week free, but why are you trying to burn that 4th week up for a rain week? Are you making money?
Yeah. No, all good stuff, man. Yeah, I like it. You've just got a common sense approach to business, cash flow, and like you don't have. I love it. Like it's not that hard, is it?
It's not that hard. You got to play smart. Just make your best financial moves, and not every move is going to be smart. It's not going to happen. But you just got to chalk that up and not get mad at it. I mean, you're going to get mad. It's just human nature. You're going to get disappointed. You're going to be hard on yourself. I mean, your biggest critic is yourself. You're going to be the hardest person that's going to be on you is you. And I firmly believe it. And you just got to chalk it up as a learning experience. You got to sit back and you got to learn to laugh at yourself. You just got to learn to laugh at situations. Well, it is what it is. It sucks, but let's try not to do it again. Let's move on.
Yeah, and I think even myself, the older I get, I still need it, but you just need to have a little patience too, because we always want shit today.
Well, and being the business owner, it's like everything's riding on your shoulders. You got employees barking at you, you got customers barking at you, you got people at the house barking at you, and everybody needs part of you. And there's only so much of you go around. And like my biggest thing with my wife and our biggest battle is me taking time off. Is me taking time off. I am a workaholic. I will work 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. And I've always been like that. And I know it's a downfall. And so I want to go on vacation. I was like, well, go and tell me how it is, or wait till December when we're not working, and then I'll go with you. And I'm like, if you want me home, there's not going to be enough money. And if I'm gone, I'm not going to be here. It's just a constant battle. And I'm still fighting that happy medium. And I know a lot of other guys are too. I know I'm not the only one. I mean, being a man, you want to be a provider for your family. You want everybody to have everything they want. But also at the same time, you don't want to sit there and be making 30, 40 grand a month and having nothing to show for it at the end. I don't know if that's being a male or what it is.
And I think the thing with us is we put all of that. How do I say this? We have all the emotional attachment to providing as a financial level, right? Where your kid providing is just being there. Like they don't get if you watch those videos where and I don't want to go down the transgender topic at all, but they were talking about kids being able to do that. And the guy's like, here's why kids can't make that decision. He had a $5,000 stack of cash and 5 Oreo cookies. And he asked every kid, which one do you want? The cash or the cookies? 12 for 12. I want the cookies.
And that's society we're in. I mean,
they don't have any value to money, right? They're too young. No. But they have a lot of value to you being there, laughing, giggling, hugging. So sometimes we have to remember that providing is in person.
It's the structure. For kids, it's structure. They want you there. They want to see you. They want you involved.
Yeah, and it's tough. It's a tough juggling act, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's even the same thing around here. Even structure, even with people that aren't even competitors. I wouldn't call them competitors. Because I don't know if y'all had it up there, if it was down here, or what if it was nationwide. But Kubota went for 0% financing about a year and a half ago. And it seemed like everybody and their brother-in-law went and got a 75 or 95, 97 and bought a mulching head. And it is saturated market down here. They're out here mulching for $750 a day.
Yeah.
Looks like hammered dog, you know what. And that's the market. This is the market. And there's no structure to it. And customers, and you have two types of customers. You have customers that want stuff done cheap, and you have customers that have money that want it done right. There's no in between. They either want it done right or they want the cheapest product down here. And I've lucked out, and I've gotten, like I said, I have great customers. There was one, and for the highlight, I didn't put this in there. I was working for when I first started this, I worked for a little GC guy. He's a little squirrely, but I did some work for him, and I did a little land clearing job on my own. And I was loading the excavator up, and it was Friday, about 5 o'clock, 4:30. My wife was with me. She was in the truck. And this guy calls, he goes, hey, how much did you charge to go dig a 100-foot trench, 2 foot deep, 12 inches wide? And I didn't want to do it. And I said, I'll do it for $900. Figured he'd tell me, nah, we ain't doing it, because to me, that's outrageous. He called back, yeah, man, go do it. So I drove, and I Googled the guy's address where I was going to, and it was 10 minutes from where I was from. I was like, easy money on a Friday. Hope he pays. Let's go. I went over to Douglas Trench. This guy's got 2 little divots. They're going to be old koi ponds or something. He had some railroad ties going. And the guy was super, super laid back. His name's Jeffrey Hopkins. He turned out to be one of my good customers. He's super laid back, old Jeffrey. And I said, hey, man, what do you got going on over here? Are you doing some fish ponds? Or, what do you got going? He goes, oh, man, we're trying to build a professional volleyball court, so on and so forth. And the contractor came in, took $13,000 worth of money, and I haven't seen him in 6 months, can't get a hold of it. I was like, all right. He goes, would you mind doing it? I said, I've never done one. He goes, I think you can do it. I'm like, well, I'm glad you had confidence in me. We've only known each other for 13 minutes now. But yeah, he goes, I'll tell you what. He goes, I'll pay you. He goes, I'll give you 10 grand, pay for the equipment and fuel and the materials. You come finish it. And I walked out to the truck, and I told my wife, I said, this guy's nuts. He wants to give me 10 grand to spread some sand around. And ended up building an outdoor professional volleyball court. I went and looked at all the plans they had, everything, put irrigation in, leveled everything up. But those courts, they come in, and they stair step down 1.5 feet. They stair step down another 6 inches and run to a valley. And then you put your drain pipe in, drain it out, and then you geotech it, put the pipe in, geotech it again, and then you geotech it, rock it, put your pipe in, wrap your pipe, put geotech down again, then put the sand on. And he said everybody, because they do outdoor professional volleyball court stuff. His kids do, and they do.
Huh.
And everybody raves about it. And I talked to him the day before yesterday. And he's like, man, that court's still draining good as ever. And they just love it.
That's awesome.
And he's been one of my biggest supporting customers. And they're down in the Woodlands, Texas. They're a little bit south of us. And they're on all those Facebook pages and like all the neighborhoods. And I've probably made $100,000 from just his referrals.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of a great customer, right? You never know what you're going to get if you don't answer the phone or don't.
Well, and I felt bad about charging $900 for that ditch. So I bought all the drainage pipe. I said, look, man, I'm buying all the drainage pipe for you. I said, I spit that. And I spit that number out because I didn't want to do it. I'm glad I did it. And I'm glad you said yes. I said, go ahead and pay the other guy. I'm buying the pipe for it. Don't worry about it.
Huh.
To me, that was making it right,
Yeah. Nope. I
made $300 for digging the ditch and bought his pipe. It is what it is.
Yeah. And then you got a massive $10,000 job.
Yeah. I mean, and that was one of the first ones. And then it just kept going. I just kept getting better customers and good customers is great and referrals. And it just took off. And then, like I said, my uncle was watching me and he ended up quitting his job. He had a high paying job. He's like, man, I've been watching you. I'm tired of doing what I'm doing. I'm going to come work with you and let's make it grow. And he's big on, he's real good at civil, like sewer, stormwater, drainage, detention, retention ponds, all that bigger stuff. I mean, he's knowledgeable across the board, but I mean, and underground utility stuff. I mean, he's great with that. I'm like, okay, well, this expands my business. Why not? Let's go. All I can do is learn. I can't fail.
No.
He tells me what I need. I'm going to go for it. Let's run with it. Worst thing we do is fail, and failure is not an option. So we're only way is up.
Yeah, I love that. Worst thing we do is fail, and failure is not an option.
Yep.
I love it. What a great saying.
Yeah. And I just believe in it. I mean, like I said, every day is not going to be good. You just got to look for tomorrow and you got to learn to laugh at yourself. I mean, it's all it is. Like, yeah, that was dumb and I did it. I'm gonna go ahead and put my name on that one and let's, not do it again. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. There's going to be customers that are going to seem great at the beginning. Like I used to do handshake deals. I was on the good old boy system. If I shook your hand, hey, I tell you I'm gonna do it. Shake your hand, let's get it done. And then you do the customer and like, well, what about this tree or what about this and what about that?
I can quote it. It's
like we did one not too long ago. We were turned on to a local contractor, and it was one of the first jobs they did for them, a little lot clearing. They already mulched it, which I hate going in after a mulcher because then you gotta rake it all up and it's just a mess versus just ripping everything out conventionally and being done with it. Bid it like at 20 trees. I said $4,000, 20 trees, burn stack, $4,000, everything. And they were bigger trees. Well, the developer guy came out there and by the end of the job, he marked 30 extra trees. And I was texting the guy every time the guy come out there and put paint on trees. Like, hey man, he added 5 more trees. Hey man, he added 10 more trees. Hey man, he added 11 more trees, And I wasn't going to change my price. I bid the job. But in my eyes, it was a good faith. Like, hey, just remember I'm doing this for the next one. And I like to operate like that. Like, hey, we both need to make money. We may not both make money on this one, but I want to make money on the next one. To me, it's a relationship at that point.
Yeah. You just gotta be careful because some of those developers and home builders and stuff, man, they'll just burn through all their subs to save money.
Well, this one was kind of a friend. It wasn't a stranger. I'll put that way. It wasn't a stranger referral. So that's why I did it. The name's on the tip of my tongue, but I'm not throwing names out.
Yeah.
And another thing I did for guys out there, they have a local BNI chapter, like a business networking chapter. I'm part of one here in Conroe. It's a great chapter. Actually, I did a Baker Waste Services, David Baker. They were a customer of mine. They were opening up a dumpster rental business. And they have 22 acres here in Conroe. They called me out there and ended up getting the job. I cleared 2.5 acres out for him, put 100 by 120 limestone parking lot in for his dumpsters. He came to the BNI group, ended up joining. I use him for my dumpster service because he gives me a great deal for debris haul off. And it's all about, like, that's part of the networking. And not saying go join a BNI, go and do this, but it's been useful for me. When our storm, we had Burrell or whatever the storm Burrell came through, we had trees down everywhere down here. There was tree companies flying cranes for $20,000 a tree down here. It was crazy.
Nuts.
And I was taking trees off houses for anywhere from $1,500 to $6,000. And I'm not a tree guy like that.
Right.
But the BNI group was calling me, hey, we got this. And that network right there, I mean, that was like $29,000 almost, I want to say, in a week, just from that $1,200 investment on that group.
Yeah.
Was $29,000.
And the thing with those groups, and this is like my little asterisk for those groups, you can't go there with the expectation that you're going to make connections and sell your business the first time you go there. I guess an investment in your time, it's an investment in building those relationships, and it's, and it's mutual. So if you expect people to send work or referrals your way, then you better damn well refer some people to them too. And if you want it to really work, you refer first, right? Always be the first to refer.
My neighbor, Ben Musselman, Musselman Painting, they do epoxy floors and house painting, all that stuff. He invited me to it because, of course, you get points if you invite people or whatever, as part of your deal. But anything, and I went in there and it was like, it's ran by a guy named Justin Tubbs. He's actually a preacher, but he works for an AC company. But they meet at 7:15 in the morning every Thursday. 7:15, not everybody's a morning person. But it was so enthusiastic, so warm, so inviting. Like they open it with prayer. They do pledge of allegiance. They do all this stuff. Like it was inviting, and not every group's like that. But even inside that group, I mean, it's just like anything else. You got trades guys, then you have like your realtors and life coaches, stuff like that. Really don't pertain to your actual what you do. But like the realtors will throw you some fence jobs or some land clearing jobs, and me and David Baker with the dumpsters, I refer him out all the time. And just the roofing guy, when the storm came through, like our last meeting, his name's Timothy Jones. I was like, yeah, me and Timothy, I think we're now cousins because we saw each other like I think 20 times this past week because we were, hey, I got a tree on this house, come take a tree off. Okay, hey man, I got the tree off. It was the networking.
Yeah. Now it's the old way of doing business, the current way of doing business, and it'll still be the way to do business in the future. Like people work with people.
And I got to get in times because everything now is going electronic, and I hate that. I don't know why. I can't stand it. I like the old, hey, I'm going to come meet you in person. We're not going to do a video chat about the work you want done because I'm going to see it in person. I'm going to see, because when you go somewhere, it's like they'll send you pictures like how much for this or how much for that. Like I need to come see it. Like I'm always thinking like, what's hiding?
Right.
What am I not seeing?
Yep.
Oh, I quoted you for moving 10 trees. I didn't see the 100 behind it. You said you didn't say you wanted those done. Right. Well, you said this price, you got to do it. Then it makes you, that goes back to the Google reviews. That goes back, it snowballs. No, I want to come out there. I want to see you. I want to talk to you. I want to, hey, how you doing? I want to see the reactions in your face. And I want to see all that,
Yeah. And you hate to be to the point where you have to actually quote for the removal of 12 trees plus or minus 3 so that you can fall back on it. I know.
You have to. And that's sad. Like, okay. Like, I don't mind doing extra work. And there's customers, especially my senior customers, I'll go above and beyond. I'll do extra. If it costs me an extra day to be out there just to make them happy. And there's like, oh, I'm retired of this. I'm like, you know what? This normally charge $6,000. Give me $2,500. Pay for my guys, pay for my fuel. Buy me a steak for dinner. Let's just get it done. I don't want you spending your retirement on something that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
I want you to enjoy your life. I mean, you worked your whole life.
And you know what? I'm a big fan of karma, and I think taking care of that older society will take care of you in other areas of your life, whether it be professionally or personally. But
yeah, so I have an old lady. She called me the other day. I went over there, and it's a residential drainage job. I mean, it's 5 bags of rock and like 10 things of pot and soil. Just get our yard level with water washed out. And she's like, how much are you going to charge me, this and that? And I'm like, ma'am, I said, I'm going to tell you what. So you go pick up the rock or you get the rock delivered or whatever you got to do. And you just call me when you're here. I'm going to come do it. She says, no, I'm going to pay you $100. I'm like, no, ma'am, you're not. You ain't going to pay me anything. And she goes, well, what's your day rate? So I'm not going to tell you my day rates because it doesn't matter. Right. I was like, you get the stuff together. I'm going to come do it for you. It is what it is. And I wish more people would do that because I don't think the young generation now is like that at all.
Yeah, I'm not part of the young generation, so I don't want to speak about it. But from the outside looking at it, I think you kind of agree to a point.
Well, I'm saying that from a standpoint, so we probably grew up about the same, but ethics-wise, and I don't think the younger generation. I don't like. We saw older people. Like we were raised to respect our elders, most likely. I assume you were raised that way. If they need help, you can help them. You went across the street and help them.
When I grew up, man, like you went to Christmas, Thanksgiving, family events. Like you didn't have phones and Game Boys to sit in the corner and ignore everybody. Like you had to go participate because
Exactly.
Otherwise, you were just bored twiddling your thumbs in the corner.
Or if they were outside working, guess what? You were outside in the garden. You were outside picking up stick. You were doing whatever everybody else was doing.
I was usually outside until my dad would say, "God damn it, get back in the house. You keep making it worse."
Ours was a street light come on, you better be home.
Yeah. My neighbor had an air horn. So my mom was like, when you hear the air horn, you can just come home too. Like it was, and that damn thing, you could hear it 7 city blocks away.
Yeah. We used to ride our bikes everywhere, corner store up the road. It's like those, they don't know how far we went on the bikes, you know.
And that was their rule too. Like if you couldn't hear the air horn, then you were outside the zone. Like you were outside your perimeter.
Yeah.
Like,
but it's like that kid's like, we got her like, she doesn't want to go ride a bike around, or they don't want to go outside and do stuff. I think it's just, I mean, I know technology now. Everybody's got technology, and it's just this is. My wife's like, well, you can't think like that because you know the world's different, and you can't raise them like you were raised. I'm like, well, that turned out all right. I mean, we got a few issues, but man, it's something that can't be worked out. You know,
what are you talking about, Preston? We're perfect.
Perfect specimens.
Yeah. No, and it's funny because I can tell when I'm around, like, because like we're an online business, right? So I'm in front of a computer constantly. We're on Zoom calls constantly, emails constantly, my phone constantly. That's when I have the most stress and I feel the worst mentally. And then I'll have to check out and like just go, I'm not touching that damn phone. I'm not looking at a computer, and I'm going to go sit outside. And like we're meant to be in nature. We're meant to be engaged in the environment. And you know, these kids, they don't even realize that stresses them out, which is why they feel anxious all the time. They think that's the norm. Get off that shit. Go outside.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, it's so hot out here.
Feel super uncomfortable because you don't know what to do for a day, and then you'll be fine.
But it's like I'll come home some days, like when it's raining, my wife knows to leave me alone. Like we get in a rainy week or a little rainy season, like my first 3 or 4 days of the house, I'm on the couch. I'm outside all day long. I'm working the heat all day long. The stress factor.
Recharging your batteries. That's a big difference.
Just let me sleep. Let me do. I said, because I told her, if I run myself down so much, I'm going to get sick. And that's everybody. You run yourself down so much, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Just recharge your batteries, relax. Don't ask me to do any honeydews for a couple of days, and we'll be all right. You know, just it is what it is.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
I know down here it gets hot. Like we're fixing to get in those 120-degree days, and it's just you walk out to the truck at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you're already sweating by the time you get to the truck.
Yeah. See, like we're different. Like we're hot, but we have that damn humidity up here. And I walked outside the other day. I had to paint trim. We're redoing a room in our basement, and I had like, I don't know, 25 sticks of trim that I was painting, and I had it set up outside. We have a carport outside. No breeze, no nothing. 7:30, no, it was 7 a.m. in the morning. I started painting. By 7:30, I was soaking wet like I jumped in a pool. I'm like, the sun's not even out yet. This is ridiculous.
My wife's been wanting to pool, and every time I mow, I'm like, man, that pool would be nice right now.
Yeah.
But not for 120,000. I'm fine. I'll take a hose bath.
Man, you're in Texas, man. Just get a hot tub and don't turn the heat on.
It is still a hot tub.
Yeah. Oh shit, that's funny, man. God, well, Preston, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy week and sharing your story, and just I've truly enjoyed our conversation. It didn't even feel like we were doing an interview.
Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. I really
That's
appreciate
exactly how I like them to go. So, man, this was awesome.
It's good. It's all personal. It's just being personable, you know. It is what.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one recap note, right?
Yeah.
Be nice to people and go out there and meet more of them.
Yep.
It's pretty simple stuff. So, guys, if you want to connect with Preston and send him a message, tell him thanks for being on the show. I learned something, and I, appreciate you spending your time doing the interview. We'll put a link to his Facebook business page on the show notes so that you can just click on that. It'll take you right there to it. You'll also see the links, guys, as always, to skidsteernation.com for your next skid steer attachment, and to Groundbreaking Growth so we can help you grow your business and hit $1 million or $3 million years or $300,000 years, whatever your goal is. So until next week, guys, keep grinding, keep talking to people, and be good. Take care.